1.
All right, welcome everyone to the March 15th Master Plan Implementation Committee meeting. I'm going to read our opening statement. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Master Plan Implementation Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their own televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 99 or Verizon Channel 28, or online at www.northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in public hearings, please email your comment. Please email your question, comment prior to or during the meeting to ashapiro@northandoverma.gov. That's ashapiro@northandoverma.gov. The question comment will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. All right, so calling the meeting to order. Ms. Andrew, our first item here on the agenda is, did we get any public comments?
We have not received any public comments yet. Before we move on, can we do two things, Kelly? Can we do a quick roll call?
Oh, yes.
And then while we're doing the roll call, can someone think about volunteering to do minutes? We had John Strauss do it last time.
All right, I will start on roll call. Wait, someone thinks about that. Chris? Was here. I think he's working.
Chris Nobley here.
Jay Dowd?
Here.
John Strauss?
Here.
Sean McDonough?
Here.
George Kohler? George?
George, you're on mute.
We see you talking, George.
I'm vouching for George. He's here.
All right,
can move on.
George is vouched. All right, Holly Williams?
All right, I was pressing. I'm here. This is George.
All right, looks like we don't have Holly yet. Meredith Barnes-Cook?
Here.
Stan Limpert? Stan?
Here.
Okay. And Kelly Cormier here. All right, I think
Yeah, here. I'm here.
All right, I think we have everyone. All right, fantastic. So with that break for roll call, is anyone want to volunteer for minutes today?
I will, only if no one else wants to.
That's the thing, Jim. When you volunteer, I can guarantee you no one's going to step up and do it.
I'm just waiting
You've
for
already-
them to take
stepped
the
forward.
job away from me, and if they want it, then we can discuss negotiate. But I'll do it otherwise.
But we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, the next is approval of the minutes. Were they linked to the agenda? Did we get them?
They should have been, and
They weren't.
oh, they
I
were
don't think
not. Oh no.
All right, so we can do that next
is-
meeting. We can approve both meeting minutes.
Wow. Okay, that's my fault, guys. I apologize. I'll take one for the team on that one. I will. Of course, we can do 2 sets of minutes at the next meeting.
We'll do the next one.
So my apologies for that.
All right, so we'll move.
Kelly, can I make a request here?
Yes.
Could I ask that the minutes be distributed when they're ready instead of waiting until the day before the next meeting?
Sure. Usually you'd receive it the week before because we're like on this schedule that we're on, we're doing Monday meetings typically, so you'd receive them on a Thursday before the Monday, but we can get them to you before that as well, so that's not a problem. Duly noted.
It's nice to send them out as a reminder of the meeting, but it would also, my personal opinion is it would also be nice to receive it, say, a week or two after the meeting. Just to.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I think part of this is also with volunteer doing, someone doing the meetings after. It'll be how quick someone can get them back out, and then Andrew can get them out. But yeah.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
The first, the once I receive them, I will turn them right back around and send them out immediately. In addition to linking them next time, so my apologies for that.
Thanks, okay. I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. All right. So then moving on to number 4 on our agenda, which is
Kelly, sorry to interrupt. I see Holly just joined. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Awesome. Thank you. I missed that. Hi, Holly. All right. So number 4 on our agenda is presentation and discussion on the Royal Crest redevelopment plan. So we have quite a few members from the Royal Crest team. Thank you for joining us. As we go through, I know there's a presentation that's linked. I would just ask as we go through the presentation that if you're able to talk about what file that you're opening up and sharing, as well as just helping people key in on what page of the deck that you're on. That's not getting broadcasted at all. It's just helping people follow through.
And Kelly, I need to recuse myself from this part of the conversation based on being in a butter to the project. So I'm going to exit, and I think someone's going to text me when it's appropriate for me to join back in.
I can text Meredith.
Super. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. So who's kicking it off?
Hi, Kelly. Nice to see you again, and members of the board. Thank you very much for joining us, and for the folks at home who may be dialing in to watch this. Good evening. My name, for the record, is Jim Keefe, and I am a principal at Trinity Financial in Boston, and we have been designated by AIMCO to oversee the redevelopment of the 77-acre Royal Crest Estates that many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with. We were originally asked to look at a number of alternatives, one of which was fixing the place up, and we determined that that was not economically feasible. Of course, the other one was just to sell the property into a very strong market, but AIMCO, as a third alternative, asked us to look at the redevelopment of the entire 77-acre parcel. And that is what we've been doing pretty much going back to even before the gas explosion, the change in town managers, the pandemic, and here we are at last having an opportunity to present to you based upon the work that we've done. And also, I hope you'll see a careful reading of the master plan, which we've spent quite a bit of time looking at, and want to really commend the town for the thoughtful approach it took to looking at growth. A lot of places don't do that in a planned kind of way. And it was something, frankly, we were able to leverage off of and really get some direction and insight. And hopefully you'll appreciate the effort we made to do that. With me is becoming a no surprise to residents of North Andover, Michael Lozano. He's project manager. He's vice president of development from Trinity. He's going to be walking through step by step how and where we believe we're in conformance to your master plan. And also here with Greg Lane, who is with the Next Generation Consultants. He will be organizing questions for us in a way that we can make sure that everybody has a chance to ask questions and we get a chance to answer. But again, thank you very much for having us. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Andrew, I don't know if it's possible to share my screen, or if you and Kelly, or if you want me to just, refer to the deck as I go through.
No, I think if you have the ability, go ahead and share. Hopefully
Okay.
that works. I know you've done this a couple times already now, so let me know if you're having any issues on your end and
All right,
to
hold on
share
one-
for you.
Okay.
And just for anyone who might be listening in, Michael's going to share the deck that is linked to number 4 in the agenda. In the agenda, the link is titled Proposed Royal Crest Redevelopment Plan. Is the name of the file, just to help if anyone has to.
No one's going to be able to access it by the name of the file.
Okay.
It would just
All right.
be
The link.
It would just be directly linked. But if anybody has any issues accessing the link, again, you can contact me, Andrew Shapiro, ashapiro@northandoverma.gov, ashapiro@northandoverma.gov if you're having any difficulty accessing the link.
And just wanted to say, Michael, thank you for taking the time, and the whole team for coming to the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Appreciate you taking the time to do this, and eager to hear about the new Royal Crest in terms of the master plan, and really being able to understand how that intersects with the strategies and elements that the citizens of the town laid out in the master plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and thank you, Kelly, for that. Yeah, so this presentation, we've given a number of presentations to a number of boards and groups in town for quite some time now. We're still early on in the process, but this presentation specifically addresses how the master plan helped inform our plan, and how our plan is in conformance with the town's master plan. So I'll go through all the different elements as we go through this presentation, and then obviously we'll leave lots of time for questions for the group as we go through the meeting. So with that, I'll get started, and I am just on the first slide of the deck. So just a reminder for people who don't know just about the existing conditions of the site. The Royal Crest site is very large. As Jim mentioned, it's approximately 77 acres. This is one of the largest parcels of privately owned land in the town of North Andover. There's over 55 apartment buildings spread out throughout the site. There's dozens more garages and carports. There's a lot of building already on the site. There's very little planning. Those buildings, in some cases, encroach into wetland areas and into no-build zones, and I'll get into that a little bit. There's very poor, when this was originally built in the early 1970s, there wasn't a lot of thought or logic put into the plan. There's very poor vehicular and pedestrian circulation. There's lots of impermeable paving. There's very poor drainage. And in fact, there's almost no sidewalks at all, and I'll get into that. And there's very little sense of place. It doesn't have a lot of logic to it. The buildings, as I was mentioning, of those over 50 apartment buildings, they are severely outdated. The buildings have, significant issues with them related to, their building systems. They're incredibly inefficient. It really is early 1970s technology. They are not up to current standards as it relates to handicap accessibility. There's almost no accessibility on the site at all today. There's no sprinklers in any of these buildings. So while they're safe, they do have fire alarms. They don't have the latest technology as it relates to fire safety. The windows are all, single glazed, doors are drafty, but maybe most importantly is that the buildings are filled with asbestos. And when they were built, asbestos was a good thing. We all know now that asbestos is really not a good thing. And the asbestos is in pretty much every aspect of these buildings. It's in the wall, the plaster on the walls, it's in the roofing, it's in the window caulking. which makes it extremely difficult to renovate these buildings in any meaningful way. The buildings are totally safe. As long as you're not, doing major work to these buildings, they're totally safe. But in order to do major renovations, which is what these buildings need, it's nearly impossible and certainly cost prohibitive. So we took this as an opportunity. We had looked at the possibility of renovating these buildings. It's not possible. So we took this as an opportunity to totally reimagine Royal Crest. So I'm on the next slide. And this is just sort of a vision statement of what we set out to do. We wanted to take this opportunity to create a vibrant new community and provide numerous benefits to North Andover. Specifically the current Royal Crest, it's tired, it's totally at the end of its useful life. It must be replaced. We wanted to mix new, exciting public outdoor spaces with retail establishments and restaurants, amenities that create a true live, work, and play environment, place that people could walk to from their homes. We wanted to deliver a variety of accessible and affordable housing types that strengthens the neighborhoods. As I mentioned, I should have mentioned the existing Royal Crest is 588 multifamily rental apartments today. So there's already a lot of residential at the site. And we wanted to create, and bring to the new plan a diverse set of housing, which I'll get into. We wanted to improve pedestrian mobility along the Route 114 corridor and improve access to the 114 corridor. We wanted to help revitalize the 114 corridor and, apply sound planning principles to what we're planning here. We wanted to build on the character of North Andover through repurposing the property. We wanted to utilize the latest technology as it relates to energy efficiency and sustainability. And, we wanted to make sure that this plan is consistent with North Andover's master plan, which we think it is. And I'll get into all these as we go through the slide deck. So, then on the next slide now, and just I'll get into the details of how the plan was informed and is in conformance with the master plan. So on the first aspect, we looked at land use, and we looked at the existing condition of Royal Crest and how it relates to the master plan as it relates to sort of modern planning principles. And again, we took this as an opportunity to create an enduring, walkable, open air, sustainable development. It's really centered around energized public spaces where people who will live at the new Royal Crest can gather, but also people from throughout North Andover can gather. So briefly, we address many of the goals in the master plan. Again, this is one of the largest parcels of land along a key retail corridor in North Andover. The master plan encourages the reuse and redevelopment of existing land. This is not a greenfield. This is an existing site that already is fairly intensively developed. So we're just, making that more logical and more, consistent with the master plan. The master plan encourages commercial, mixed use, and multifamily residential development to locate in places where that stuff is already happening, and that's what we're doing here on the 114 corridor. It encourages the redevelopment of older properties such as Royal Crest along these routes, and it encourages updating zoning to allow for developments like this, which we are going through the process now. The master plan, again, allows us to work through a more logical plan, and I'll get into sort of some of the specifics of our plan and how it addresses these, but it allows us to apply those planning principles to this particular site. The master plan recommends focusing redevelopment on property that is currently served by adequate public infrastructure, which this site is, and I'll get into that. And the new Royal Crest will vastly improve the infrastructure. In particular, it vastly improves the stormwater runoff, and I'll get into that as well. So As a reminder to people on the call and to others, I'm on the next page now, which looks at our plan in a little bit more specificity. So we organized the plan around a couple primary elements. First, we organized it around what we're calling a new town green, which is right on 114 across the street from Merrimack College. This is a new 2.5 acre public park that will be a gathering space for people who live or work at the new Royal Crest, but also for Merrimack College, for people throughout North Andover to gather. Around that town green, we have new mixed-use buildings that have retail on the ground floor. We have what we're proposing is a new boutique hotel, which I'll get into a little bit, that again fronts onto that town green, and we think will be a really exciting element. And then we organize sort of the more larger buildings in our plan on 114, sort of fronting onto Merrimack College. And as you move towards the back of the site, the buildings start to step down in height. So towards the back of the site, we have new multifamily buildings and some new student housing. Again, all fronting onto 114. As you move to the back of the site, the buildings start to step down in height and scale, and at the rear of the site are townhouse style attached single family homes that are more in scale with the surrounding neighborhoods. The second primary element that we wanted to sort of organize the plan around was a wide landscaped buffer all the way around the perimeter of the site. So it's important to us that we maintain that buffer and in fact strengthen it as from what exists there today. Today, there is a number of mature trees around the perimeter of the site. We're going to preserve all of those trees, and in fact, we're going to expand that buffer. There's also a number of existing wetland areas that are indicated in blue on this plan. And again, as I mentioned before, the plan preserves all of those existing wetlands around the perimeter of the site, and in fact pulls the existing, as I mentioned, some of the existing buildings are actually built encroaching upon those wetlands and within the buffers of those wetlands. Our new plan and what we're proposing here is to pull the buildings out of those buffer areas, creating a lot more space between the built up area of our plan and the property line, and in turn our neighbors. So moving on to the next slide in the deck, this is an image of the town green as I was mentioning, and again we expect this to be a really exciting public space. On the left here you can see the boutique New England style inn that we're proposing. This New England style inn, we're not talking about a Hotel 6 by the highway. This is something really upscale, something really beneficial to the town of North Andover. We modeled it on the Andover Inn not the Andover Inn. Andover Inn is one of the models that we looked at, but I'm sorry, the Hanover Inn, Dartmouth Inn in Hanover, New Hampshire. We also looked at the Williams Inn in Williamstown, Massachusetts, the Viking Hotel in Newport, Rhode Island, and a place called the Inn at Boltwood in Amherst. And most of these are adjacent to colleges. They're very, again, upscale boutique hotels that we expect will be a really exciting element of our plan. Beyond that, this public gathering space, will be ringed with retail space. And we're not talking about a lot of retail. We're talking about 75,000 square feet, which is about half the size of a large, modern supermarket like Wegmans or, like a Target. We're not talking about big box retail here. We're talking about neighborhood oriented retail with, cafes, restaurants, small boutique style retail. And one of the things that we really wanted to emphasize here was walkability. So right now at the existing Royal Crest, if you want to go get a cup of coffee, you've got to get in your car and you've got to drive down the road. There is no way to walk to do something as simple as get a cup of coffee. So what we're planning here is quite the opposite. We want people to be able to, you know, if you want to get in your car, you absolutely can, and we've designed to accommodate that. But if you don't want to get in your car, you can walk downstairs into your building or walk across the street to a cafe. You can grab a cup of coffee, and we have these really nice public spaces where you can enjoy it. And it's something that we're really excited about. You can sort of see that in this image here. Again, here's some more imagery related to what I was just talking about. On the left is the new town green here, and sort of in the background behind these trees that we expect to preserve is one of the new mixed-use multifamily buildings. So again, we're not talking about cookie-cutter architecture here. We're talking about something that's really quite noteworthy and well-designed. You know, we have the public space on the left, but maybe most importantly is, again, emphasizing the walkability of our plan. On the right is Route 114, and I think, you know, everybody knows Route 114. It is not a walkable, enjoyable place today. And in fact, it's not good for cars today, and I'll get into that. It's essentially a highway, but we've been working really closely with Mass DOT in the town to sort of reimagine what Route 114 and what life along Route 114 can be like. And that's sort of depicted here in this image. We're talking about wide buffered sidewalks, incredibly upgraded pedestrian infrastructure, and upgraded bicycling infrastructure, which I'll get into, which should make for a much more pleasant experience for people who live at Royal Crest, for people who are, you know, walking by Royal Crest or walking to Royal Crest, but also for people driving just along 114. It will make for a much better environment. The next, so on the next slide in the deck, you know, I wanted to touch on another element of the master plan related to housing. So the master plan has a pretty robust section about housing. It speaks to you know, creating homes for households across a broad range of incomes. Our project helped ensure that families of all means will be able to be part of the community. So, you know, just to touch on the existing Royal Crest, like I mentioned before, there's 50 plus apartment buildings with dozens more garages and carports. There's approximately just under 1,300 bedrooms that exist at Royal Crest today. Again, there's almost no sidewalks. With the property being directly adjacent to Merrimack College, it's become populated quite intensively with Merrimack College students. So today, there's approximately 800 students who live at, college students who live at Royal Crest. And every day they're crossing from the existing Royal Crest to Merrimack College, and it's not a very good experience for them crossing Route 114. It's not a great experience for them living at Royal Crest today. It's not, you know, there's not a lot of organization to their living situation today. It's not good for us because managing college students is pretty difficult for an apartment manager. And it's not good for Merrimack because the kids are not in a good live, learn, sort of environment. So one of the things that we're really looking to do is to work closely with Merrimack College to create some dedicated, purpose-built student housing, which I'll get into. And the existing Royal Crest, again, it's 588 apartments. All of those apartments are 2-bed and 3-bed units. There are no small units available at Royal Crest today. And then the rents are approximately $2,000 to $3,000 today. So what we are doing is addressing a lot of the elements in the master plan, but we wanted to broaden the types of housing that are available at Royal Crest. So we are building some new multifamily residential housing for rent in multifamily, new modern buildings, those units will be much broader in size. So as I was mentioning, the existing Royal Crest only has 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. We'll be introducing, studio apartments, 1 bedroom apartments, some 2 bedroom apartments and some 3 bedroom apartments, but we'll be broadening the size of housing that's available, which will serve a much wider range of households than exists today. We're also going to provide a number of affordable housing options for people. We're proposing 96 units of affordable rental housing that doesn't exist in town today. So that will, again, broaden the types of families that will be served by the new Royal Crest. We're also proposing some senior age-restricted housing. We've heard that there's a strong demand for age-restricted housing in town. So we'll be dedicating 1 building of about 135 units just for seniors. And we're also, as I mentioned earlier, we're providing a number of townhouse style single family for sale housing, which again, obviously doesn't exist at Royal Crest today. So again, we're broadening the types of housing that's available. A portion of the multifamily housing, we're planning to utilize what's called a friendly 40B approach in coordination with the town. This allows the town to exceed the state's 10% requirement of affordability far into the future. And what is most important about that, beyond providing some affordability within our plan, is that it allows the town to have complete and total local control for any development anywhere else in town, again, far into the future. If a developer wants to come into town and utilize 40B, they will only be able to do that with the complete and total cooperation of the town, and they won't be able to utilize 40B as a stick, if you will, to get what they want. And that's something that we could go into in a little bit more detail. Again, the town's master plan recommends updating the town zoning bylaws to promote a mix of uses in areas served by public infrastructure. This is one of those sites. And the master plan recommends creating more dedicated student housing for Merrimack. And that is what we are providing here. And we can get into more details on that. So again, just to close the thread on the housing elements of the plan. So again, I mentioned multifamily rental. We have some affordable rental, purpose-built student housing, which is focused again towards Merrimack and away from the neighborhoods, some age-restricted senior housing, and again, introducing an ownership element with the townhouses towards the rear of the site. So I mentioned somewhat the transportation elements, transportation-related elements of the plan. But again, what we really wanted to create here was a walkable new neighborhood. And that's really was the focus of our planning effort. We locate the residential properties closer together, which creates a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly environment. We provide extensive amenities, providing a vibrant neighborhood on the 76 acres. We have revitalized and reimagined public outdoor spaces that mixes some retail with residential, as well as some workspaces to create a true live, work, and play environment. And the site is close to multiple commuter rail stations, and we're really excited to be able to share that we've had very substantive initial conversations with the Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority to directly connect our site into their network. And I can get into more details about that, but it's one of the more exciting things about our plan is the opportunity to connect directly into an existing public transit network that can get you into downtown North Andover, get you into to the commuter rail stop in Lawrence, and maybe most excitingly, it can get you directly to downtown Boston with a connection essentially from your doorstep here at Royal Crest, with a commuter coach service that the MVRTA already has in existence, but they've been very receptive to the idea about making a stop on their existing route here at Royal Crest, and it's something that we're looking to expand with them. But very quickly, as I've mentioned, the existing condition, the existing Royal Crest was designed in the early 70s in an outdated style. It's very automobile centric. There's almost no sidewalks today and almost no walkability. There's no bicycle infrastructure. There's today over 1,100 existing parking spaces, and today there's no connection at all to public transit. We're looking to change all of that, and that's all directly in response to your master plan. So again, as I mentioned, we're looking to create a real walkable, bikeable neighborhood here. We are working directly with the MVRTA to extend bus service, and we think that those are really exciting plans. We're working with the Mass DOT to promote safer travel speeds, to improve 114, as I mentioned. As I'm sure everybody on the call knows, and many people know, DOT is planning a $27 million improvement project to the Route 114 corridor, and we've been working very closely with Mass DOT for quite some time now to make sure that our plans work with their plans, and that the roadway network is as they propose it, is designed to meet the demand that our plan will have, and it does. So what they're planning is, and what we are planning, are to include wider sidewalks along Route 14, improve safety for pedestrians and bicyclists, improve safety for cars, and in general make for a much more pleasant and well-connected environment. So as I mentioned, Mass DOT is planning this major corridor improvement project. That project increases capacity of the roadway. It improves and modernizes existing intersections. It adds turning lanes. It upgrades traffic signals and drastically improves safety along the corridor. This particular corridor where Royal Crest is located has some of the most dangerous intersections in the state of Massachusetts. So this plan that Mass DOT is working on will drastically improve those intersections. But while it does that, it accommodates, growth along this corridor as well. And again, we've been working closely with Mass DOT to make sure that any impacts from our project are accommodated in their design of the roadway network, and it does. So just briefly, I'll touch on the economic development aspects of our plan as they, fit together with your master plan. A mixture of uses is one of the most important qualities defining the new Royal Crest. The work, live, shop concept is integral to it. Where only residential exists today, we're looking to broaden the type of uses on the site and introduce some new retail, some office space, not a ton, but one building of office space that we think is in high demand. A small boutique hotel that doesn't currently exist in North Andover and meets a really strong demand for a small hotel like that. And open space all worked in together to create a vibrant environment. Again, just touching on the existing conditions, the current site's one of the largest private parcels of land along the 114 commercial corridor, and as well as throughout the town. It's one of the largest private parcels of land in the town. And it's currently a single use. It's all multifamily rental housing. By introducing these new uses, we make for a better living environment, better working environment, but it also broadens the town's tax base. And that's something that we're very happy to do in this respect. So the master plan goals and recommendations that we meet, we wanted to make sure that Royal Crest is not converted to support just multifamily, but we structured our plan to support a mix of uses that promotes a more vibrant 114 commercial corridor. It's an opportunity for the town to work with Trinity and us and Aimco to attract a mix of uses to the property. We're expecting to generate, with this plan, we're expecting to generate approximately 6 times as much tax revenue as exists today. So it's something that, we're very excited about, and something that we've been working very closely with the town on to look through all of the potential impacts of our plan to make sure that every impact is fully accounted for, and that even with any of those impacts accounted for, our plan as it is proposed today would generate significantly more tax revenue for the town. We would generate hundreds of construction and permanent jobs with the new Royal Crest, and will strengthen demand for local businesses, again, through a strongly collaborative mix of uses. I'll just quickly touch on open space and recreation, which is really important to us. I've mentioned it before in the presentation, but one of our goals was to preserve as much open space on the parcel as possible. And we wanted to utilize the land for as much open space and recreational opportunities as we could. We think it makes for a better plan. And frankly, it makes for a more attractive, marketable product for us as well. Again, the existing condition of the site, there's 50 plus apartment buildings and their ancillary buildings spread all throughout the property. They're built close to the property line, and in many cases are built within the wetland and the buffer areas. There's really no public amenities or open space, no public open space on the site at all. And our plan is actually quite the opposite. We as I've mentioned, we have revitalized, reimagined public outdoor spaces that mix, exciting new boutique retail establishments with restaurants. Again, creating that live, work, play environment. We're proposing this 2.5 acre town green, like a highly, really beautiful public space that can be enjoyed by all the residents that live here and the neighbors, as well as everybody in North Andover. We're looking to significantly increase the wetland area. We're going to nearly double the buffer area around the perimeter of the site. And we're also going to introduce some walking trails and extensive bike infrastructure, which I'll touch on the next slide. So as I mentioned, around the perimeter of the site, we're looking to preserve and expand the buffer. That buffer also includes a lot of the existing wetland areas. So we're looking to nearly double the size of the buffer that exists today and what we are proposing. Within that buffer, we're looking to introduce some new, as you can see indicated here, we're looking to introduce some new walking paths and sidewalks, let people get a little closer to nature. As you can see in the photographs here, these are sort of examples of what we're talking about. We're not talking about, sort of the Minuteman bike trail. We're not talking about a huge rail trail, if you will. We're talking about nice landscape sidewalks that will allow people that live here to get some exercise, to walk their dogs. But we're not talking about bringing a huge amount of people through the site. But that also will allow people to walk more. It connects into the existing sidewalk infrastructure. It brings you out to 114 in this whole new reimagined sort of pedestrian environment on 114. And the same applies to the bicycle infrastructure as well. We're planning pretty extensive bicycle infrastructure all throughout the site that will connect into the new infrastructure planned on the 114 corridor, which will allow people to ride their bikes throughout the site, but also connect into a network that frankly doesn't exist today, and is something that would be really good. I'll just quickly touch on the, on this sketch, which we're pretty excited about. So I mentioned that there's a lot of infrastructure improvements that we're planning as part of the site. And this is one of them. So this is a sketch that our landscape architect and our engineering team put together that deals with one of the buffer and wetland areas to the rear of the site. So the current site has very inadequate and outdated stormwater management infrastructure. And we are planning to completely and totally rebuild that up to modern standards to make sure that we are, taking care of all of the obligations related to stormwater management and beyond. Today, the stormwater management regulations within the state of Massachusetts calls for the site to accommodate approximately 8 acre-feet, what's called 8 acre-feet of stormwater. Our plans and our engineering teams are actually proposing to accommodate 4 times as much stormwater, all on site, to make sure that all of the stormwater for the site is managed on site, that it does not impact any infrastructure off site or downstream, and most importantly, does not impact any of the surrounding neighborhood with stormwater. And we took that as an, that's going to be a very expensive and a very complicated system, but we also looked at it as an opportunity, and this sketch sort of touches on that. So as you've seen in some of the other images, we have a number of existing wetlands around the perimeter of the site. And, in this case, we're looking to expand some of the wetlands, to strengthen those wetlands, to preserve those wetlands, and to provide some stormwater management in a way that is, really considerate to the wetland areas and to the natural environment. We also are looking to introduce, some boardwalks and walking trails throughout that area that could get people a little bit closer to nature, let them enjoy that. But again, we're taking a very serious and really close look at how we can accommodate all these things in the best way for our site and for the town. And as we move along here, I wanted to touch on one of the later elements in the master plan, historic, cultural, and natural resources. Specifically here, I'll touch on the natural resources. So, it was a goal to protect the town's natural resources, including wetlands, water resources, stormwater and flood resiliency, and energy use and sustainability. Again, the existing conditions on the site, there's over 50 buildings, plus their ancillary sort of accessory buildings. They are drastically out of date and inefficient. The stormwater and utility infrastructure is outdated and inadequate today. And as I mentioned, the existing buildings are built with asbestos and other hazardous building materials that, this plan will obviously allow us to remedy. So, we looked closely at the master plan. We know that it is a very important resource for the town to protect the lakes and waterways of the town. So we looked at that closely, and as I mentioned, our engineering team is looking at the most efficient and effective ways to manage the stormwater, so that's not affecting downstream waterways. And we're also looking to drastically improve water efficiency within the site. Today's site is very inefficient and horrible. The existing buildings are not built to current standards as it relates to water efficiency. We're looking to drastically improve energy efficiency in our new buildings, as well as sustainability. We want to get people out of cars through improvements to the walkability and bike infrastructure on the site. We nearly double that no-build buffer around the perimeter of the site, and we protect and expand existing wetlands. As it relates to energy efficiency and sustainability, again, the current property is pretty terrible in that respect. But we're looking at this as an opportunity to be a real model for North Andover and beyond for projects like this. We're looking to replace a poorly planned car-centric development with a pedestrian-oriented neighborhood. We're looking to utilize energy-efficient new construction buildings with state-of-the-art sustainable systems. We would utilize very high efficiency HVAC systems, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. These buildings will most likely be all electric. They'll be, as current a standard as could be. We'd be using highly insulated wall systems and high performance windows and doors, solar ready roofs, and where possible, we may introduce solar panels into the designs. We utilize low, VOC and maximize healthy indoor air quality. And as I mentioned many times before, we vastly improve the stormwater management and wetlands preservation, as well as the water use efficiency of the new buildings. And Aimco and Trinity are national leaders in multifamily green building. It's something that both Trinity and Aimco take really seriously. We have an incredible amount of experience in creating communities like this that utilize the latest technology and utilize the latest planning to create real, noteworthy, sustainable communities. And just to note on that, the photograph at the upper right of this image is from a site called Soundview Landing in Norwalk, Connecticut. This was a very large redevelopment of a site that was completely and totally damaged by Hurricane Sandy in 2012. It's completely rebuilt that site into a mixed income site utilizing the latest planning principles, and that project is actually certified under the LEED Neighborhood Development Program. And the image on the bottom right, not related to our project, we're not proposing skyscrapers here, but it's something that we're really proud of. This is a project in New York City that Trinity is working on. This is actually the largest residential passive house development in North America. So it's something, again, that we have a lot of experience doing and something that we would look to apply as it's appropriate here at the new Royal Crest. So I know I've been talking for a long time and we want to get to questions. I'm just going to really quickly wrap up here about our project and the benefits to North Andover, the benefits of the new Royal Crest in North Andover. Again, we're replacing an outdated and less desirable property with a well-planned and exciting new neighborhood. We're vastly improving the environmental sustainability of the site, and we're very excited to talk to people about that and what it means. We meet many aspects of the town's master plan, and that's what we're here today to talk about, and we'll continue to talk about. We'll enable a town to exceed its 10% threshold requirement under Chapter 40B, which gives local control back to the town for future proposals contemplating 40B. It activates and makes safer Route 114 while maintaining traffic capacity and flow. And the new Royal Crest, as I mentioned, will contribute, very substantial new tax revenue to the town. So I'll pause there. I've been talking for a long time. There's a lot, it's a big plan and there's a lot going on with it. So I kind of, went quickly through the elements. I wanted to make sure that I touched on everything, but I also want to make sure that we dedicate enough time for questions and comments. So I'll turn it over to you, Andrew and Kelly, and we can take questions.
Great, thank you. Thank you for going through that, Michael. Want to open up to the committee for any questions that you have for Michael and team in terms of what we heard, particularly along how it goes with the master plan elements. All right, John, and then sorry, right before we do that, and then maybe after the committee has their questions, Andrew, if we can then take a look and see if they're on the off chance any public comment came in, we'll get to those after the committee questions. All right, sorry, John.
Thanks, Kelly. I just want to thank you guys. I know you've done presentations to the town before, and I just want to say thanks for kind of redoing it in light of the master plan. So I know there was some work involved on your end. So I want to thank you for that. I have just a couple of notes I wrote down during the presentation. So first one right off the bat, is this project, are the buildings on this project going to be LEED certified?
We're a little bit early in the process to decide, which sort of path we would take for the buildings. They certainly will be built up to LEED certifiable status. And in fact, we have talked about the possibility of LEED certification, but we haven't settled on anything as it relates to that yet. But it's something obviously very important, and our plan is a perfect candidate for it. So I think it's something we're going to look really closely at.
Okay. Michael, to cut in real quick, John, if you don't mind, just to clarify for folks at home, does that mean basically that you're building them to LEED certified standards, but not going through the process of actual LEED certification through U.S. Green Building Council, whoever monitors that?
Yes, that's
okay.
Exactly right.
Just for clarity.
That's
okay,
exactly.
Great.
Next question is, I think it was last week, MassDOT made a presentation to the select board in town regarding the Route 114 reconstruction.
Yes.
As part of the plans that they presented at that time, understanding that they're only in the 25% design phase, the gist of what I got was that the state is planning on putting a 10-foot shared use path on the opposite side of 114 from this development, and there's going to be on your side only a 5-foot sidewalk. And in the plans that they have right now, granted it's again early in the design process, there really wasn't any bicycle or major pedestrian accommodation from their project onto your site. I'm assuming that there's been conversations to that. Can you just give us where that stands at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. And we've been working really closely with MassDOT, and there will be, and in fact, we've very recently been engaged with them about addressing exactly what you just brought up, a better and more substantial sidewalk on our side of the road. So, one of the things that we're looking to do is to connect into the shared use path on the Merrimack side of the road. That's important, but we also want to make sure that our side of the road is accommodated as well. So we've actually talked with DOT about creating or allowing DOT to sort of encroach upon our land, if you will, which will give more buffer from the roadway to the sidewalk. And in fact, will allow them to build a wider than 5-foot sidewalk. So we've actually been talking about an 8-foot sidewalk on our side of the property that would be further away from the road. And we have, a lot of frontage, as you can imagine, for a 76-acre site. So for the entire length of our frontage, we're talking about providing that sort of infrastructure on our side of the site. But we also want to make sure that, we connect across the road to the shared use path. So we've talked and been very, very insistent upon them that the pedestrian experience across the road is important. And they've been very responsive and very collaborative in trying to create the best pedestrian experience, both for our side of the street and to get across the street as possible.
And then the last question, you kind of touched on it a little bit regarding the MVT-RTA, because again, they had a presentation to planning board about a potential for the bus stop being incorporated there. Because of the size of the development, and a lot's been made on your end, on Trinity's presentation end, about it being a self-contained neighborhood for people that live there and whatnot. At the same time, though, you're talking a hotel development, potential dorm space, and apparently 75,000 square feet of commercial space. Presumably that's all for open to the public, which means traffic generation. So,
right.
The big concern that's been voiced to, by many is you know, you said you have 1,100 parking spaces on site today. What's being provided as part of the new development, and what specifically are you doing to minimize, because you're going to have traffic one way or the other. That's going to happen. I mean, we know you're going to get cars, but what specifically are you guys looking to do to encourage non-vehicular use?
Yeah. To address that specifically, again, you know, the plan is completely and totally, you know, structured around the idea of pedestrian friendliness. So we want to, that's the first thing that sort of, the first thing that our plan is centered around. But that only goes so far. So we need to do other things. So again, we're looking to, introduce as much sort of alternatives to people as possible. So that includes car sharing, that bike infrastructure that we've talked about. It's not enough to just like make bike paths, but all of our buildings now have interior bike storage. We want to make it, we want to encourage people that live in an apartment building to utilize bikes. And we include those in all of our buildings now, and it's heavily utilized. But we need to go beyond that even. So again, we've initiated these conversations with the Regional Transit Authority to really, to fit into their existing network of public transit. And that's something, is very recent, that we've had substantive conversations with them, but they're very interested in making those connections to our site. And again, it's something that makes all the sense in the world, and something that we're really encouraged by. We've also had conversations with DOT to make sure that should the MVRTA introduce new transit service to this site, that the DOT's plans are designed to accommodate that. So we've talked to them already about designing their roadway network to accommodate that public transit, and they also have been very receptive to that. So again, we're collaborating with all the players here to make sure that our site is designed and will be built to accommodate it, and we're expecting those connections to be made.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Can I jump in? Sorry.
I just saw George's hand before yours, Holly, if you don't mind.
Oh, I raised my hand on the thing only because it was a follow-up from John's.
Okay, then let's do your follow-up. Sorry,
ahead.
I missed the hand, if you don't mind, George. Sorry, Holly.
Sorry. So first of all, thank you so much, Michael. This was wonderful, really exciting. I think for the future of North Andover, all of these possibilities and some things we don't have now. Just a couple questions following up on John's questions about the DOT specifically. It sounds like it's going to be a vibrant community with a hotel, retail, lots of housing, things like that. The university student population sounds like it'll be going up at a minimum of 25% from where it is currently, from 800 to 1,000. You've mentioned several times the pedestrian experience and the pedestrian friendliness. I haven't heard any solution other than a 5-foot to 8-foot sidewalk for crossing that road. So is there an alternative suggestion? I mean, I know what I have in mind, and it links McDonald's to the high school today. Is there an alternative solution to keep that pedestrian friendliness for this huge uptick in volume other than an 8-foot sidewalk crossing that, as you put it, highway?
And Mike, you need a rest, man. You need a rest. You've been doing a lot of talking, okay? We're going to give you a breather on this one. What was the question again? Just kidding.
So, no. Oh, do you know I'm going to ask it again?
No, I'm just kidding. Again, as Mike has said, the whole idea of, these lifestyle communities, placemaking is to get people out and walking. And I think one of the trends that we're experiencing is younger people want to get out. They want to interact with other people. So a big part of the success here is really trying to bring some energy around that town green. A lot of college towns have a town green in the middle of things where there's a lot going on, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement going on. The whole thing with the traffic study, we've been at this for over 3 years, and very early on, we were made aware of the fact this huge investment was going to be made, probably before most people in the town. And if that investment hadn't been made, I think the kind of a redevelopment plan we've contemplated here would not be possible. As it turns out, that investment in the design that they've proposed is going to more than accommodate the cars. And to John's point, that is also taken in the traffic generated by the students, the hotel, and the retail. That embraced all of the potential automobile users. So with respect to the pedestrian aspect of it, one amazing thing that came out of our discussions with MassDOT, because in my 30 years in this business, MassDOT has been just about cars. You know, how do we get more cars through here? And very little effort or time went into planning around pedestrians. And this is a new MassDOT. This whole concept of complete streets, still having the throughput of traffic intersections, but calming traffic in a way that people don't feel discomforted just walking down the street. So as Mike said, we're going to be providing an easement for MassDOT to expand the walkway in front of our site, which is going to be extensive. The engineering is in place so that walkway can turn into our site in a safe manner and be integrated with the sidewalks on our site. We're going to have sidewalks on both sides of the street, so it's going to be a very walkable place, and also tie into the trail that runs around the perimeter of the site.
So sorry, not to interrupt you. I get the concept of the bigger sidewalks. What's going to connect the two sidewalks other than the highway?
Well, Holly, if some have suggested that we build a bridge or some kind of
Having driven down that street with the college kids
Yeah.
that play Frogger, I
Yeah.
honestly don't know how you get an increased size, community size, and just put bigger sidewalks.
We get that, Holly, and I just want to say this has been something, you know, even AIMCO asked us about. Everybody tell you that nobody uses them. To get to the minimum height, which is 16 feet 6 inches above Route 114, you'd have to have a ramp 250 feet long, between 250 and 300 feet long. That is a very, very long ramp and will prove to be formidable for anybody to use. They just won't use it. And as a result of not using it, the intersections themselves will become all that more dangerous if they're not planned and sized in a way to anticipate the kids coming and going during the course of the day. It's not perfect. 114 is a formidable state highway, but between the efforts to turn it into a complete street and the sidewalks and trying to be as mindful as we can about that pedestrian experience, but the whole idea of a bridge going over 114, it's been considered multiple times and ruled out. Imagine a ramp 250, the size of a football field. People aren't going to use it. They're not.
Mhm.
But I was curious about what you were going to suggest about the connection between the school and McDonald's.
It's an overhead ramp.
It is an overhead.
Yeah, that's not 250 feet to 300
Yeah.
feet long, not even,
Yeah.
it backtracks. I mean, granted, it was built many years ago and maybe the code has changed, but
It
it's
has.
100% used all the time. You walk by there at 2:30 and it's literally almost traffic jammed with kids crossing the street from the high school to McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's like entering a stadium for a football game back in 2019.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it's just
Anything
filled
to
with
get to
kids using
McDonald's.
it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, again, the whole ramp apparatus, the fact that it's a state highway, it has to be at least 16 feet 6 inches and possibly even higher, results in a bridge that no one would ever use.
yeah, and I believe that's a state highway too, because it is on 125. But
Yes,
again,
it
the
is.
ramp is definitely not 300 feet
Yeah.
long, but again, it could be different codes that were used when it was built back in the day.
All right. Holly, did you have any other questions?
No, that was it. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thank
Holly.
you, George.
All right, then George and then Stan, and I see your hand is up too. So George and then Stan.
Well, thanks. Mike, I was wondering, what exactly do you have in mind when you say activate 114? Because I can tell you what I have in mind when I hear activate 14. It's not a selling point.
Well, again, we want to make sure, right now Route 114 is not it's got strip malls, and it's got, it doesn't have any street frontage. It doesn't have nice sidewalks. On our property, we want to make sure that the sidewalks aren't too close to the road. So, we've got quite a good setback from, the proposed street line and our buildings. But, we're looking to make it a more walkable and inviting environment, so that, if you need to walk up and down 114, it is and can be done. And that it's not that it's just can be done, that it's a pleasant experience. And that's what we mean about activating 114.
Okay, all right. And then on slide 4, it says vastly improved infrastructure.
Yes.
And I understand the improvement to the stormwater management.
Yes.
But I was wondering, what other infrastructure are you referring to? Because when I think of infrastructure, I think of roads, I think of water supply, I think of wideband.
Yeah.
When you say vastly improve other besides storm management, other infrastructure, what are you referring to explicitly, or what do you have in mind?
Yeah, it's really all of the above. So the infrastructure.
What's the above?
Well, just like everything that you just said. So, the beyond the stormwater management infrastructure, there's, sanitary sewers, for example. There's water supply lines throughout the site. There have been numerous breakages of the water supply to that site. Was built with, outdated and completely inadequate, piping for.
Okay, so so you're referring to water and sewer and other things like that on the site.
Yes, that's correct. On the site. Yes, that's correct.
All right.
So,
okay, I understand that, I guess. I'm sorry, can I ask a couple more, Holly? Or should I? I'm sorry, Kelly.
Yes, go ahead, George, ask your questions. Yep.
Slide 13. Oh, slide 13, what traffic and Route 114 corridor improvement project. You've got what looks like an engineering diagram of the intersection where 125 diverges from 114.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I'm looking at a picture that fits on an 8.5 by 11, so I can't read just about everything on there. But I don't see anything that's different from what is there now. What is different, or what is new on that picture?
Yeah, so it's probably best to let DOT speak specifically to this, but it completely, just to speaking from our discussions with them and our, the understanding, our engineering team have been working closely with their engineering team again to make sure that our plans, work with their plans. But essentially, our understanding is the existing intersection at the bypass road is completely inadequate. It's, again, one of the most dangerous intersections in the state of Massachusetts. So what they're proposing is to completely reconfigure the traffic interactions and the way that they work together within that intersection. It also creates a new, you can see at the top of that image, it creates a new driveway into our site, so our driveway will tie directly into this new signalized intersection.
Well,
so
are you saying then that the driveway is going to shift to the east a little bit? I mean, the existing main entrance is on the left edge of this picture, isn't it?
That's correct. That's
and you're
correct.
Saying it's going to shift to the intersection that wide?
Yes.
If I can just chime in real quick, George.
Yeah.
The biggest thing they're doing is they're going to eliminate the jug handle turn to the left. They're going to shift the driveway to line up better with 125, and they're going to add additional turn lanes.
Oh, okay.
Exactly right.
I missed the jug handle. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the jug handle is being eliminated, and they're going to put a left turn lane into the Royal Crest site right from 114.
And then is 114 going to be widened there? Are they going to take some land?
They're going to take land for sidewalk creation. They're going to widen. It's at the 25% design level right now, so it's still subject to a bunch of design change. But based on what they've presented so far, roadway widening is going to be they're going to have a buffer between the roadway edge and the sidewalks. So there is going to, the whole cross section is going to be widened slightly. So they'll be widening the road. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that information was part of the last select board meeting, George. If you wanted more information on what exactly was presented to the town, you could look towards the minutes and the agenda with the items in the last select board meeting.
And I believe that they are going, DOT will be going before the planning board in the near future. I don't think they have a date confirmed yet, maybe in April. So look out for that, George. And they will be doing public hearings. So they will have formal public hearings to receive input from the public, and they'll do, broader public meeting and outreach on the 25% design that's in place. So it's, I grant you, it's confusing because it's in and of itself a large project. And of course, you juxtapose it against this. This is also an ambitious project. So two large projects with a lot of things going on. But they hopefully will complement each other given, what's going to be going on in this area.
You gave me a very good answer when you said they're going to move the main entrance and they're going to remove the jug handle. That's fine. Yeah. I'm sorry, I got one more question though, and that is on slide 15, master plan economic development, and then the third bullet, expected to generate approximately 6 times as much tax revenue, blah, 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 taking into account all impacts to town services. That's a confusing statement to me because when you say it improves tax revenue by 6 times, I understand that. And I also interpret that to mean, and that does not take into account the increased cost to police services or school services or something like that. Now, is that an incorrect interpretation on my part?
No, you're correct.
So the revenue will increase 6-fold. And then what you're acknowledging, well, what do you mean by taking into account all impacts to town services?
So again, we're working closely with the town on, making sure that all impacts are assessed. So this is not complete yet. I just want to be clear about that we've been really considerate and wanting to make sure that both we and the town are accounting for all the costs associated with a project like this. So anything related to the schools and the police department and the fire department, and even, the recreational department, senior services, the town's libraries. So we've been talking to, the department heads. We've been looking at all of the facts and figures as they relate to all of those aspects and how it relates to our proposed plan. And we've been putting them in a report, and that report is being peer reviewed right now by a third-party consultant hired by the town.
Mike, let me stop you, Mike, because I think what I'm hearing from you is I should just forget about this third bullet, and you tell me to wait until the financial impact statement is public.
That is probably the best path, and it should be complete and presented in full within weeks, if not a month. Yeah, but we're very close to having that ready to go and to be able to go into extreme detail on all aspects of that.
And George, just to sort of back that up a little bit, because the town is also very involved in this. As Michael just mentioned, we're peer reviewing the information that's being put forward, so that there's a lot to unpack there. And we want to make sure that we, take a holistic view of, all the impacts plus all the benefits to the project so we can, measure it correctly. And then the last thing I'll quickly mention about it is that we're also doing a school capacity study. So we're looking not only at this project, but at the other projects that have been recently approved or permitted in North Andover or recently built, to take into consideration the effect that those projects have on school capacity, in addition to what this project might also bring. So there'll be a pretty clear picture, or at least as clear as it can be, given the amount of analysis that'll be done on school capacity and other impacts.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
What we can say is that we are very confident this is going to be a substantial generator of net revenue to the town what that number is. When that gets public, we want it to be right. We want to be in concert with the costs associated with that. So it's taken a little bit more time because it will be a game changer. It will be a very significant component to why this project should be approved. But it needs more time, and we're perfectly happy to work with the town to get the numbers right, to get everybody on the same page.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
George, is that it? Any more questions?
Yeah, yes, no, that's good.
All right, thank you. Stan, your hand is still up. Any questions? Stan, you're on mute and a little frozen if you do. All right, well, we wait for Stan to unfreeze. Does anyone else? Oh, there's Stan. I can hear you now.
Am I back? Okay, yeah.
There you are.
You're cutting in and out, Stan, a little. Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit, Stan. If you can.
Maybe Stan can type. I know you're not really supposed to do this, but you can read it aloud. Kelly, if Stan wants to type into the chat, you could do that maybe. As long as you read aloud.
Do that, Stan?
What he's
just
saying.
tell me now.
Yeah, Stan, you're cutting it out. If you could do that, that would be great. And then I'll read that. John's got another question, and then I do as well. But if you want to do that, we can definitely catch your question, Stan. John, do you want to go?
Yeah, just while we're waiting for Stan to get his question, I figured I'd ask my other one here. So I know there's a lot of questions circulating regarding Merrimack's interest in this project. As there's what we've been told, or what's public so far, is that there will be a building component that services Merrimack students. Can you give us a little more information on what's involved on that? Does Merrimack have a financial interest in that building? Whatever information you can share with us regarding that.
Yes. So what's envisioned is like I mentioned before, it's a purpose-built student housing building that would be directly controlled, managed, and occupied by Merrimack College for their students. So Merrimack, I only hesitate to say that Merrimack, isn't the owner of it, because we're talking about utilizing sort of this, public-private partnership to utilize tax-exempt bonds in order to build this facility. But, Merrimack will be completely and totally involved in every aspect of the student housing as we're envisioning it here, which should greatly improve the situation that exists today.
Just as a follow-up to that, so it's a public-private partnership that you speak of, but if a student occupies a dorm space there, who are they paying? Are they paying? They're paying Merrimack. Okay. So again, Merrimack would it essentially would be a Merrimack facility. There are some intricacies to how that exactly takes place, but really Merrimack, it would be Merrimack controlled, operated student housing. Okay.
Is that it, John?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I have one question. So thinking about in terms of my question, in terms of the master plan. So one of our element strategies is around open space and recreation. And one of our strategies is to consider the creation of more athletic fields to support youth sports. You had mentioned under your element of open space and recreation that you were looking to partner with youth sports and other organizations. Would there be room here for a town field to fit into the athletics? I'm just looking to what we have in our master plan around more athletic fields. Do you envision an athletic field for youth sports?
No,
okay.
I don't think that we're envisioning that. It's more, a little more informal. We have the open space and, walking trails, but we'd also, look to, wherever program is appropriate for, people that would live at the new Royal Crest, but we're not talking about new athletic fields.
Okay, great. So be for the kids within space for all of those kids. Okay,
That's
great.
right. That's right.
All right, so now I'm going to switch over to reading Stan's question, reading his question just because of the internet difficulties. So he have 2 questions. I'm going to read both of them. His first question is, what are the taxes currently paid by Royal Crest? And then his second question is, how many students are expected to attend public schools from the new project?
So both of those will be completely and totally detailed in the fiscal impact study that's going to be fully vetted and, presented to the town shortly. Just to answer the questions roughly, the existing Royal Crest pays approximately $1 million annually in taxes to the town. And again, the number of students, we don't expect, there's a number of students that live at Royal Crest today. We don't expect there to be a very significant increase in the number of students going forward. Again, because we're providing a lot in the proposal, we're providing a lot more smaller units, a lot more units, appropriate for people with, younger in their lives, before they start families that don't exist there today. We don't expect there to be a lot more school-age children generated as part of our proposal. But again, the exact numbers will be detailed in that report, which is nearly ready for release.
All right, great. Thank you, Michael. All right, I didn't see Stan type any more questions, so I'm going to move on from Stan's questions. If you have any more, Stan, chat them away.
I just wanted to jump in here for a second and say that we're again being intentionally vague on this because the peer review is not completely signed off on our initial fiscal study. But Mike is in the ballpark with respect to $1 million in terms of what it's paying now.
Yeah, thank you, and completely understand that. The intent of this committee isn't to make you repeat the same things over again. It's really to look at it the lens from the master plan. So can certainly appreciate that there's information that's been presented or will be presented in another to one of the other boards. So thank you for clarifying.
We're just not trying to be vague. We want
to get it right, and you don't have to repeat it for us. We're just looking at it from the master plan lens. So thank you. Holly, I see your hand is up again. Oh, nope. She's like, no, it's not. All right.
Sorry, I forgot to lower it from before.
Oh, there you go. Well, I finally noticed it, so it's a win-win. Okay. Anyone else have any questions from the committee? All right. What I would ask of the committee is, especially think about it in terms of the subcommittees that we have for the various elements. If between now and the next meeting, if we can really think about what we've heard, think about what we know about the plan, what we've prioritized within our own subcommittees, if for our next meeting, that if just we can talk about any kind of impacts or additional questions or anything that we have or additional concerns we might want to express or put together. Good, just focus on our subcommittees from that piece. All right, and if no one else from the committee has anything for the Royal Crest team, I'd like to thank all of you for joining. Appreciate the time and know you're on continuing to work through the various boards and committees of North Andover. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Stay safe.
Appreciate it.
Kelly, I'm going to text, if you don't mind waiting a moment, Meredith
Absolutely.
to come back in.
Kelly, while
Bear
we're
with me one
waiting,
second.
I'd like to ask a question. Why did Meredith feel she had to recuse herself? We're not making any decisions, and so
that was a discussion, Andrew or Jean, if you want to take that. Or
sure. And actually, George, I feel badly because technically we had her so we talked to the town council. She's a direct abutter, so in order to really kind of participate in if she wants to vote at town meeting or make a comment at town meeting, we felt like or at least it was the town council's opinion that it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for her to comment in a public forum prior to that on a board or commission. Now I realized midway to the meeting that you're actually a direct abutter, but I think you've already participated in the process before. So We're doing the best we can. That's we specifically looked at it, and we consulted with the town council. That was her suggestion, and so we let Meredith know that. And the good news is on this is that there's so much public interaction going on with this group in the town. They're going to various boards. They've been before the planning board a number of times. They've been before the select board a number of times. They've gone out to neighborhood groups. The town has also put up a website, and I'll share that with you in a moment. I just want to finish my text message to Meredith. But I'll share that with you. Yeah. Let me just do that. But that was basically the issue. So apologies if there was any confusion there.
Well, I guess to tell you the truth, I'd be real disappointed if you told me that I should recuse myself. I just, in the way I see my role, it doesn't seem like there's a conflict of it doesn't seem to me that there's a conflict of interest. And
yeah, I mean, the best I could say is, like, if there was anybody who, if you felt, strongly about that, and I'd offer the same thing to Meredith, we can set up a conversation with the town council to get some, explicit understanding and guidance, or to talk it through to just better understand her concerns. It doesn't give me pleasure to exclude someone from a conversation. That's not what we're trying to do. It's just,
I'd rather I'd rather leave it this way. I've told you, I've made my position clear. I don't think that there's a conflict of interest, and I'm going to wait until somebody contacts me and says, no, you're wrong. There is a conflict of interest. Otherwise, until somebody tells me, I'm going to participate as a member of this committee the way I normally would.
Understood. I understand your position. I mean, I don't envision, at least in terms of this committee, unless you guys think you're going to be having follow-up conversations with this group. I don't know that you're going to be having another follow-up in the near future, but I could be wrong. So it may not be an issue at this point.
But it's probably just something we'll have to, Andrew and Jean, you had reached out to town council. We'll make sure it's clear, so we know as a committee, if anything like this comes up again, it's really clear as to what any of us need to do or not do, right? And we can decide from there, because there should be some kind of process or guidelines for all of us to follow.
Yeah, Andrew, I have a quick question, so that I don't put Meredith on the spot. What signals are you getting from the neighbors now? I mean, those guys seemed really intent on describing that buffer zone to us. So it looks pretty good, looks pretty big, and how are the neighbors reacting to that? If you can share that with us.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to summarize it for you, because everybody has a different take, right? I mean, my general take is at a really, really broad level, and I don't even think this is necessarily in regards to abutters per se, maybe just people in general. I think people look at this and they're like, it's a big project, and it is a big project. They're not wrong in observing that. Naturally, with a lot of big projects, people have concerns about a lot of the stuff that was brought up. What is going to be the impact to our schools? What's going to be the impact of public safety? What's going to be the impact of traffic? All of those things are being taken into consideration. You've got a planning board and a conservation commission in particular who are going to take a look at this, a hard look at this. And the town is also trying to build out a zoning overlay that would also take into consideration those impacts as well, to best mirror what it feels the town would accept. But I think there's a lot more conversation that has to be had. I think, seeing that fiscal impact analysis, seeing the school capacity study, I think those will answer more questions, and they may generate additional questions as well. But I think that'll start to broaden and further the dialogue. So right now, I think it's the developer trying to get the information out there, trying to receive feedback from the community, and I would hope that and expect that they'll be listening to that feedback, and to the extent that they need to adjust the project in any way to accommodate for that feedback, hopefully they'll do that.
And Jay, just one resource to help answer your question is the different boards will collect a butter comments when they're submitted to the town, and they'll be part of the agenda. So if you look to the current planning board agenda as well as some of the previous, and click into a particular topic, there will be a link to all of butter comments are posted. So it's just a good way. It's certainly not a holistic view, right? Because it's individual residents, but it's how particular people feel about particular issues. So
Right.
I think for me, it's helpful to see just what the different issues are. People's perceived issues.
I did just so everybody knows, I did go ahead and share the link to the website for the Royal Crest project that the town has put up on its website. So you should feel free to take a look at that. If anybody who's watching this from home wants to know where that is, there's a link directly on the homepage. If you go to the North Andover homepage, on the left side there is, and it's northandoverma.gov. On the left side, there's a kind of a menu with a bunch of buttons on it, and the last one below, and it's kind of all by itself, says Royal Crest. And you can also access it by going to the projects page. There's a projects link along the kind of underneath the head banner of the homepage. You can click that, and it's also linked there. So there's a whole variety of information in there, including a catalog of all the meetings, the public meetings that have already happened. So all the links to the NACAM broadcast of those meetings, all the links to the materials that were shared at those meetings. This meeting will be shared there. The link to the materials from this meeting are already up on there. Anytime there's like a presentation or anything like that, we'll update it and put it into the list of materials that people can reference for this. And there's also contact information on there, so people can feel free to call or email if they have questions or want to know when the next meeting is or anything else. So.
Okay. Thank you. John, I see you have a question, and then Andrew, I just realized we never went to public comments, just if any came in. So maybe you can look why John asked his question.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, no, well, more of a comment, Kelly, and it kind of piggybacks off of what you had mentioned. So one of the reasons I got kind of on a personal level got more interested in town developments is when the Avalon project was proposed on High Street. And that's when I learned of the public resources available through the town's website, through all the planning board agendas, where all that information is. So for George, if you have a question about the impacts on how many potential school children is this project going to generate? So you look back on like the Avalon project, and they have a complete, it's like a traffic study. It's like, how many cars do you think it's going to be? Here's the study that shows the breakdown on how do we come about how many cars are going to be generated. They do the same thing for how many children are going to be based off the, demographics, the size bedrooms and stuff like that. So that's coming. According to them. And then the other thing I wanted to share for not only on this group, but anybody that's, again, last select board meeting was when MassDOT presented their initial plans for 114, and they were colored renders. They weren't too in depth, but they showed you the lane configuration and the sidewalk. So that's available. But with the caveat that, as with most MassDOT projects, at some point in the design process, after the 25% design has been submitted, the MassDOT holds what they call a public design hearing, which is open to the community, where they present the plans fully at that point and solicit comments. So that's coming down the line too. So that's just more of a, just pin it in the back of your mind that there will be opportunities to really, as far as the 114 portion of the Royal Crest development, to get more information and ask questions there.
Thanks, John.
Okay, thanks.
Andrew, did anything come in?
No, we're not controversial enough yet, guys. Sorry.
Oof. Careful. And then, okay, Meredith, I see you've got your hand up. She's like, no, I don't. All right, so that's all of that. So we can, I think, close out that one. Would ask, like I mentioned, just within everyone's subcommittees between now and the next meeting, think through what we've heard, think through about it in terms of the elements and strategies. So then we can just all of us can just have a discussion about if there's any points to bring up as a next group.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to our next topic, 5, report out on the quarterly report presentations. Stan, John, and James and I all presented at the planning board and select board our last quarterly report. Chris could probably chime in on any additional information on how we were perceived, but I thought it went great. Everyone it felt truly appreciated the complete sidewalks recommendation from transportation from John and James. I thought that went really well. If anyone else has anything else to comment on that.
Kelly, Chris here. I would just add that absolutely, I think it was the kind of the connection now starts to really happen, and having the recommendation, you could see almost the hunger to get direction from that. And so I would encourage us as a group to continue to do that forward. I think we're starting to fulfill the mission, and you could see that in the scope of questions there. Absolutely. So thank you.
Yep.
Really.
It was great to see not just give a recommendation, but then there was what do we do? What's next? Right.
Right.
So that was
Right.
We should as our recommendations come forward. Good point. We should all say what's next. Who's who can run with it. So it was a good reaction. It was a good feeling.
Yep. Look for the next one.
There we go. All right, John or Jay, Stan, do you have anything to add? Or
Chris, if you don't mind, if I may ask,
Sure.
what comes next to me seems to be the renovation of lots of streets with all of that money from the Columbia Gas projects, and I'm just wondering if in our recommendation of a complete streets strategy, how likely is it that the streets will be renovated with that Columbia Gas money, with that in mind?
I think it's safe to say that one of the things that Melissa did cover in a couple of sessions over the past year is kind of our strategic plan for that, and she's always looks to booster kind of what's already in the works, because again, we have a kind of a schedule, and probably Andrew can address this more accurately than myself, but there's a schedule for replacement, repair, upgrade of streets and sidewalks. So trying to sync that up with this money, is an ongoing dance, because we want to certainly make sure we repair, we want to accelerate in the same way, but we also don't want to take away from those other identified areas and streets in the town that rightfully have been waiting their place for a replacement. But what I guess I can say is, yes, that's being factored in, and we are using that money. Absolutely. Andrew, I don't know if you'd add more to that.
Yeah, just to add a little bit. So just on the complete streets strategy itself, we now need to go back and we need to actually adopt a policy. That's like the first step. So thank you to Dan and Jean, who we've been working with, as well as the DPW director, Jim Stanford, and the assistant director, John Borgese. We've been working together in the town manager's office to come up with a workable policy that scores well, that would be accepted by the Commonwealth through this Complete Streets program, and one that the select board can adopt. So we'll be bringing that forward in the near future. Then step number 2 is we have to apply to the state's program to get money to do a planning process, basically a prioritization process. We have to put together a list of priorities we want in terms of projects that can be funded with Complete Streets support. So I only bring those 2 issues up just to demonstrate that it's not something we can jump right into. We have to kind of wait until the entire process has made its way, or made it through its course. So adopting the policy and then getting a prioritization plan in place. And then the last thing I would say is, although the policy does really encourage, the use of a complete streets mindset and strategy when it comes to, infrastructure upgrades and repairs, it's really trying to focus on certain areas that really will benefit from it the most, or the most logical areas, so to speak. So one thing right now, and I know you all are aware of this, is we're doing a downtown improvements master plan. Obviously, the downtown is an area where we want to improve pedestrian access, even help with bicycle access, make it safer for all modes and methods of transit or mobility. So those improvements are going to be a few years down the line, and I can very easily say that we'll probably want to, assuming everything moves forward with the Complete Streets policy, we'll want to tap Complete Streets funding to do a portion of that project. And I also know that the Columbia Gas repair money, some of that is being set aside for the downtown. So we'll be able to leverage the Complete Streets funding and the Columbia Gas money and any other funding that we can put together to do the major renovation of the downtown area for that purpose. So I guess it's a long-winded way of saying it's all in motion. It's a step-by-step process, and we want to get it done. So and you guys were very helpful in moving forward the initiative to get a Complete Streets policy adopted, because it was out there, but up until the idea that you guys went in front of the select board to really push it forward to say, hey, from a master plan perspective, this makes sense and we recommend it. Now we're in a position to actually do it. So thank you for that.
Andrew, we can conclude that whatever streets are slated for renewal with that Columbia money between, let's say, your upcoming warm season, the Complete Streets policy is not yet adopted and won't likely be in place for the current season.
Correct, but that doesn't mean that, just to be clear, it doesn't mean that these. So if there's a good sidewalk, that's it's a good sized sidewalk, and you have obviously road right of way, it's going to be repaved, and you're going to get a nice new, maybe potentially concrete, maybe it's bituminous sidewalk that's adequate for pedestrian access. But are you getting all the bells and whistles in a quote unquote complete streets? Perhaps not, because of course that adds complexity in terms of the design of the project and the cost of implementing it, whether it's striping a bike lane or doing a wider sidewalk, so now you're using more concrete,
right?
Things like that. But those are all things that we will certainly be doing once we have a Complete Streets policy in place and we prioritize the projects we want to move forward on. Absolutely. So
I think that's the highlight of it, which is there's a balancing act here between using the funds that we have with Columbia, fitting it in strategically with our plan, and with the streets project. We don't want to leave anything that should be attended to now, and I think you see we've moved pretty quickly. But we've got a new factor here, so that's where Andrew and his office really have to juggle a third piece now, so which we're happy to have you do.
And we're happy to do it.
All right, so I think that takes us into our item number 6 on our agenda, new business. It's a discussion item, a downtown improvement master plan versus land use and economic development elements. Stan, I know this was one that you put on there. Are you able to?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Let me talk quickly while you hear me and explain what I Crest. Listening to the last presentation, the public forum for the downtown.
You're cutting in and out, Stan.
No, too bad. Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah, it's I
Okay.
can't hear Stan. I don't know if anyone else.
Next time,
Oh,
I'll
there
work
you
on
go.
my internet.
I understand these problems. All right, so let's do that. Yeah, we'll take it over to the next agenda. All right.
And one thing, just as a suggestion, and you don't have to take a suggestion, but just an idea. Stan, if you want to write up a few like bullet points next time, and then we can link it to the agenda, and then we'll kind of at least have some bullet points to talk through, whether or not you're able to connect in and actually verbally recite them or not. So just
the internet is fun.
Yeah, the internet is fun.
Okay, so then that takes us to adjournment. All right.
Actually, can I bring up one really, really minor thing on new business? No. No, just super quick. It's just a friendly reminder that we're coming up to another end of our quarter. So I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar screen. We don't have to do anything with it right now, but just to say that like we'll be in another position in the next month or so here to be producing another quarterly report. That's it.
Got it. Do we have our next meeting? Good point. Our next meeting set. I know this one got moved a little bit later because we shuffled for the downtown improvement.
Yep. So we had been going on the first Monday of each month. So if you all want to stick to that, the next first Monday wouldn't work. It's Easter Monday. So I'm assuming we're going to be observing Easter on that day. And I assume that's a town holiday.
Is that a town holiday?
No, it's not that I remember. But
okay, I just see it on the calendar, so I have no idea. I don't know if they.
But Andrew, were we meeting on the first Monday or Thursday?
We moved to Mondays. We had moved to Mondays. I think there was some conflict on Thursdays.
All right, and Chris, that doesn't interfere with the selectmen's schedule? Are you the first Monday?
No, our meetings are on Mondays, and our next meeting would be after the 22nd, would be what, April 8th, something like that?
Your Monday, though, is actually, the select board is on April 5th on Monday, so we might have to skip to the so do we want to either stick to the 5 o'clock slot on Monday, which would be a marathon for you, Chris, if the select board is really.
My only angst, well, I want to make it as accessible for everybody else. The only concern is if we have an executive session beforehand, that can cut in.
All right, why don't we go to that following Monday, the 12th, if that.
Let me just
that works.
Let me just double check on the calendar just while we're all here. Yes, it looks like that works. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Monday. Give me 1 second. April the 12th.
All right, and that will give time too for the subcommittees to meet and come back on what we heard and reflect on anything.
Right.
Because to Andrew's point, our next report is coming up. So I think certainly if we can kind of capture anything that we think would want to reflect back, we'd want to make sure we could capture that in our next report.
Okay, and that Monday should work. So if folks want to look at their calendars.
Works for me.
Great.
Jay's in the dark over there. It got dark on us. All right, then I think we can adjourn. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I am done. All right, I'll make that motion.
All right.
Seconded.
All right.
Chris.
All right, let's go. Okay, Chris, let's vote on adjourning. Chris.
Aye.
George.
George votes aye.
Jay.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Meredith.
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
All right, looks like we've lost Dan. Kelly. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Good night.
Take care, all.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye, everybody.